Hi everyone, thank you for coming. My name is Drew Simpson, and the title of my presentation is Invisible Toxins in Child Care and Education Centers. This presentation is part of my ongoing Capstone project working with the CDC and my site supervisor, Dr. Arthur Wendell. Specifically, I worked with the CDC's ATSDR on the Choose Safe Places for Early Care and Education program, where I conducted research surrounding proximity-based dangers to child care centers, primarily in the form of chemical toxins. The importance of this research is fairly straightforward in terms of protecting those who cannot protect themselves. In this case, children who can't even recognize they are in danger. Now, to jump into my poster here, I'm going to be starting with the background. Now, there are up to 8.3 million children in daycares, preschools, and other early care and education centers in the US. It's estimated that 1 in 8 children have been exposed to harmful chemicals in care centers without being aware of the situation they were in. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was back in elementary school, I had quite a few friends that would either go to daycare before or after school. So it's pretty scary to think that they could have been exposed to chemicals such as this. Many child care facilities are actually found in buildings that have been used prior. Some examples of this would be things like old factories, gas stations, dry cleaners, and even nail salons. The chemicals specifically that we were looking at here that could be putting children at risk were things such as mercury, lead, radon, and formaldehydes. As of this moment, there are no federal laws or regulations dictating specifically how far a child care center must be from sites such as that of gas stations, dry cleaners, and nail salons. And down here in figure 1, we can see a list of chemicals commonly found in nail salons, as well as if they are detectable with a PID. Now, the question I had going into this for my capstone is, what measurements would a system need in order to accurately gauge a safe proximity of child care centers to chemical outputs? My methods for this, given constraints during my internship period, I worked from home the majority of the time and had little access to CDC documents. This has to be taken with a grain of salt, as it's very understandable with the current state of the world, that the CDC had to spring into action, and I wasn't necessarily granted as much access as I would wish, but I'm still very grateful for what I could do there in the building with them. That being said, my primary research for information and study were sites such as PubMed, EndNote to organize, Google Scholar, using key search terms in order to narrow my results. Analysis of graphs and statistics was very necessary to accurately gauge measurements, such as this graph below, or this diagram below, of New York, and it is based on area code and the density of dry cleaners within each area code zone. You can tell why this wouldn't necessarily be a very accurate gauge for what we're looking for an overall safe proximity measurement, as they're quite different in different areas. As for the results, predefined systems were very sparse. I had a hard time finding very many that were relating this into a primary system. However, the representation on the subject was very abundant. On the subject of nail salons, dry cleaners, and gas stations, chemical outputs were found in great abundance. However, the notion of studying the effects via proximity itself were few and far between. To conclude my results, there must be implementation of study on these sites, specifically focused on proximity itself. And that's what the papers and research that I was looking into were lacking. In order to do this, required measurements will need to be taken from sites in the form of proximity-based air quality tests, soil quality tests, and groundwater/drinking water quality tests. As you can see in my third diagram here, it's actually a lead exposure in schools and daycares across the US. This is also why I included the water and drinking water quality test, because I actually was able to find an article about a uh, basically a home-built daycare center that was recognized by the state, had all the proper documentation. But when they were contacted they were contacted by their news, their local news, that their groundwater and their drinking water, therefore, had been contaminated with lead, and it had been used in meals and recipes that they were cooking up for children while they were at daycare. And it was a very large story, and the caretaker was very distressed. Um, Now, implications. The implications of my research call for the immediate study into a proper measurement system to be used that can be successfully used and distributed across all needed locations. Basically, in this sense, across the entire United States, uh, being viable for any specific location necessary. As a result, this information will be the foundation of future laws and regulations to protect kids and child care centers in the future. Now, I want to give a special thanks to Dr. Arthur Wendell and Vanessa Galvez for their support and patience throughout my time at the internship and my time working on this project and on my capstone. I could not do it without the support systems that I have, and I'm so, so grateful for it. And I'm grateful for all of you here watching this and listening to me talk as well. Thank you very much.